Greetings and salutations. This is Betsy and Thomas from the American Intelligence Media. Thomas, have you guys come off from your sugar high of all that cheesecake celebrating going on in the conclave?
We danced too much, we drank too much, we ate too much. You know, you were there. So the celebrations are going to go on, that's for sure. So here we are. We're going to continue to work with Trump because a lot has been cleared up, but it's kind of like San Francisco or any place in California. It's just filled with garbage. It's filled with unbelievably illegal people. And we have to clean it up now. And it's going to be, really, we only celebrated for a day. We got to get back to work now.
Well, that's because it's going to take all of us patriots, and that includes those of you who are listening to us now, because you are just as much a part of this truth community as we are. We got to go in there and wrestle these alligators and start taking them down, and we're not going to forget them. So today we're going to look at the tweets of March 25th and 26th, but I also know Thomas has a page of notes that he wants to go over with everyone. So, first one is a retweet from Ryan Saavedra, and it says, breaking, the Pentagon has notified Congress that it has authorized the transfer of $1 billion to begin new wall construction along the U.S.-Mexico border. And Trump then tweets, Christmas came early this week. Oh, that was Trump Jr., excuse me.
Yes, and I appreciate Trump Jr. getting into the mix here. What this is basically saying is, sorry, Rand Paul, because the president has the entire budget of the Department of Defense, and he can spend it any way that the generals agree with him to spend it, even if they'd have to change budget lines. It's not a problem. And remember, we're trillions of dollars in the hole with budgetary, I don't even know what you call them, black holes in the Pentagon where money just disappears. So it's okay that we get $1 billion from the Pentagon. They probably got it just in a safe in the back room. You know, it's no problem for them. So basically, this is just saying, yes, we're going forward, but there's many other appropriations that have been made and funds that have been used. So this is only the tip of the iceberg of what's being implemented as we speak in terms of rebuilding the wall, building new wall, reinforcing the wall, barrier, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, the next tweet is a retweet from Tom Fenton, and it reads, they've known there was no collusion. That's the quote. And then Trump adds, and by the way, Devin Nunes, no, Trump didn't say that, did he? Devin Nunes is one of the most consequential congressmen in a generation.
Well, we say the same thing about Devin Nunes. We think he could definitely be a candidate for the presidency at some point because he's one of the only honest people on the Hill. Some of the other honest ones are the ones still fighting the fight for Trump and going to continue to battle with this resistance that continues even once they appointed their most corrupt man, Robert Mueller, to continue on the FBI counterintelligence operation against Trump, literally a coup d'etat directly from our intelligence communities. And what's going to happen? Well, it's going to keep crumbling. And we now know that no one has faith in those agencies anymore. And only the very few people at the top that Trump might be working with, and in some cases he appoints people who he is not working with because he really has no other choice. They would not get confirmed for those positions otherwise. So what is being said here by Tom Fenton is very interesting.
And let me just correct myself. The whole thing is a retweet from Tom Fenton, and Tom is saying that Devin Nunes is one of the most consequential congressmen in a generation, which I think so too, but I just want to make sure people know that Trump didn't directly tweet that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, that's Tom Fenton saying that. And I was going to say, Tom and I and you agree that Devin Nunes is one of the most consequential and honest and someone I could really trust to run our country. And what he's saying now is burn the Mueller report. What does it matter? It's all lies because it's all a cover-up. It never once addressed anyone that it was supposed to. And that's what I have in my notes here is what was missed in the Mueller report and just some other insights in terms of what was really going on.
But I think we should keep it just like we have those portraits of Obama and Mike in the White House. They had the president, their portraits. And remember, you've got Obama in the weeds, and it looks really, really weird with all the other presidential things. But I think it should always stay there, even when that guy is held up for treason, it should still stay there, just like the Mueller report, to remind us of what happens when we don't pay attention to what's going on in our government.
Yes, that president's report that you're speaking of was the worst in history, and he's in a jungle, essentially, and it's a terrible, terrible picture.
The painter is alleged to have put his own sperm in the paint mix.
Oh, yes. It's
nasty.
It's a deprecation of the entire...
That's what he thought of our country. Well, what do you expect? He was a foreigner all along. We're ready for the next tweet?
No, I want to say this.
Okay.
They've known there was no collusion. Of course they have. And that's the reason they had to write 533,000 bad, lying articles about Trump. And when I say, I'm saying every one of the 533,000 articles written on Trump, because I just reviewed about three, I can't even tell you how many. Anyway, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. All you got to do is go to Wikipedia. They created a timeline from the beginning up until right now of every lie that was ever told in the media that they could compile, and each and every one of them is a lie. And yet it paints a picture of collusion from the beginning. So remember, we have to go clean up the garbage here. Wikipedia is nothing more than the very far left version of things. And when you read it, you won't believe what you will read in there. Don't go read it. But if you do read it, you literally have things directly out of the Mueller report. Okay? Not only because everything in the Mueller report was leaked if it was a smear. And every smear, 533,000 of them smears, that's about how many leaks there were, or at least those are the responses to the leaks. What did they do? They always told you the bad about anything that was concerned with Trump. And they never once leaked a single thing about any of the people who were on the Democrat side, on Hillary's side, on Obama's side. Even though they were called in and investigated, they were given immunity.
Well,
and there was no leaks on them.
But that should be no surprise to any of our listeners, because you know that the media is actually the weapon that the globalists, the bankers, and the monarchy use to keep all of us people on the earth in line. And so they tell us these lies. They're never going to tell us the truth. The media will never tell us the truth. Tell me, is fake Fox News talking about senior executive service yet? Are they revealing the connections of this Trump overthrow back to Britain with Richard Dearlove and goodness knows what have you got under your paper here? Just flip that over. That piece of paper that you came in with. Yeah. These topics here. Start on those. Will Fox News ever cover any of those?
No, and that's why we're going to cover them. And as a matter of fact, Fox News should be demanding that all 533,000 articles and the thousands of minutes spent should all be considered a campaign donation to Hillary Clinton, or else it's RICO. It's a monopoly, and they skirted around Federal Election Commission rules. They spent 97% of their time on negative Trump information. Matter of fact, they hardly reported the news for the last 2 years. The only news was what they could possibly pull out and accuse Trump of. And if you want to go to Wikipedia and look at it, you will see every accusation made is insane. No one retracts anything. They're all lies. There's hardly a single entry there that I wouldn't say, wait, stand back. Let's look at the perspective of what you think you put there as information. And you'll find it's the exact opposite of that. And none of the timelines, and there are equally long timelines written, of what really happened during the conspiracy against Trump, because it was a conspiracy, and they used the mainstream media as their propaganda tool. The mainstream media was Hillary Clinton's PR. That's just the way it was. And when you look at Wikipedia, or you look at anything in print, including Fox News and its reporting, you're going to see such twisted lies that it's going to take a long time to rewrite that history. But it's going to be rewritten as each one of those people gets indicted and goes to jail, which I think that some of them absolutely will over time, yes. Okay,
so we're going to save those delicious notes for a little bit longer, further into the audio.
Well, let me just jump to a couple things I got to say.
Okay.
Fake news? No, it's a conspiracy. Avid and ISIS management demonstrate that it's a conspiracy, it's RICO, it's monopoly, it is a color revolution. It wasn't just fake. It wasn't just running a fake narrative. It wasn't just misinformation. It was absolutely contrived, very conscious, conspired against the United States of America. There was conspiracy against the United States of America. 12 news people at 8 news agencies were paid by Fusion GPS to promote the lies given to them by a foreign agent, Christopher Steele. Does that sound like conspiracy to you? And I'm not getting to the good stuff. That's just what they did.
Well, I tell you what, I'm sick and tired of these names coming out and then the people going scot-free. Folks, we need to hold them all to the fire, because if we don't get this problem fixed, we can kiss America goodbye. We have got to fix the problems. And the problem is nobody is running the place with law and order.
Now, with the next week, we don't even need to read it. I'm just going to say very clearly, there must be an investigation of the investigators. The special counsel must now be investigated. There was no crime, so they knew they were committing a crime to even conduct the investigation, which cost $40 million from, that was months ago. So make it $50 million, and then $100 million from, is my suggestion of what it's costing from the government side with the 40 FBI agents and many other agents in other departments. I'm saying $150 million was spent on this, and that was a crime because they knew that they were part of the collusion for trying to take Trump down with a counterintelligence operation. No one's innocent here.
And I don't want to see anybody on that special counsel who has ever been in the senior executive service. They're the problem.
Oh, absolutely. Each one of them.
In fact, you know who I really want to see run that? You and Michael McKibben. Y'all have done all the research. We could have this thing done in no time at all.
No time at all.
Could y'all get that report done in a month? Could you do it under 10,000?
2 weeks. Give me 2 weeks. I can write up all the crimes of these people and show you the documents so that we don't even have to waste time.
Yes, let's just get on with it.
And as Tom has now said in his tweet, Tom Fenton, this is criminal abuse. It absolutely is criminal. Now, the other thing is, he's stating they didn't have a good faith basis. That's just a lawyer term for it. They started it as a crime. The only crime was creating the special counsel because Comey had perjured himself through institutionalized perjury and through leaking through the New York Times, institutionalized leaking. He's the one who should have been investigated, not Trump. Now, when you look at the Trump stuff that he did, trying to get into Russia, a lot of it's lies. But we told you from the beginning Trump would have loved to have had a Trump Towers in Moscow. But it wasn't going to happen. But Felix Sater played Michael Cohen again and again and again and again and again, lied to him and told him, oh, it's set up. Oh, a new oligarch, a new billionaire. Oh, no, we're going to get Ivanka to sit in Putin's chair. Oh, no, I have it set up with Putin. Felix Sater was Comey's agent. Okay, he's the guy that Comey used again and again and again. So in a minute, I'll tell you the real Russians, but let's just say that when we're talking about Trump and Putin, it wouldn't have mattered if Trump had business associations in Russia. It wasn't illegal. Hillary was in bed with Putin, gave him a $500 million uranium enrichment plant at the last nuclear summit, gave him Skolkovo, the tech city, gave him everything he ever wanted. Putin and Obama and Hillary were all in bed together.
Oh, where was Big Mike?
Big Mike was mad because he wanted to be in bed, get Hillary out and get in bed with the other two. But no, Hillary, nobody could have been more in bed with Hillary. And then there's only one other one, and that's that he's basically insinuating that the Republicans are going to become the party of healthcare. In other words, Trump is saying, okay, the wall's built. I've already won 2020. I'm working on an infrastructure project that is the biggest that's ever going to be in American history. But I'm going to right now, on this good day, second good day after the witch hunt, the witch hunter was burnt at the stake, healthcare. He's going to take the only legacy Obama ever had and actually follow through on it. Now,
yes, and that was the last tweet. So now you're flipping the page. You're going to get to some of your raw notes.
Yeah, this is disgusting. I don't know how much I can say of this. I only have like 533,000 points here to make as the counterpoint for the lies of the articles that were written. So let's just get going. This was a cover-up. This was not an investigation. Okay? And let's remember who he was covering up for. He was covering up for Hillary because Hillary was in bed for Putin. He was also covering up for the $500 million that Hillary had given to uranium, to build a new uranium enrichment plant in Russia, because she was helping Putin win the uranium battle in America against the Queen. And so you have right here, she sold out America with this. How do we build a uranium plant for Putin? Think of that, folks.
Well, Jeff Sessions certainly allowed it to go through his committees.
Now, also remember that there was $1 billion given by Hillary Clinton to Putin to build Skolkovo, the tech city, and basically give them all the technology they'd ever need so that they can be in competition with us. Don't forget, Hillary created the reset button and made Russia our best friend forever. She did that because she was doing to Russia what she did to China. She's fleecing them, and that's what she did. And how did she fleece them? Well, Uranium One got her 145. That was one deal. One deal of her getting through the CFIUS committee when she was Secretary of State to let Russians buy 20% of our uranium in America, Uranium One, the Uranium One deal. She got paid $145 million directly into the Clinton Foundation for that while she was Secretary of State. That's a crime. Bill got paid $200 million in another fund. Bill got paid $500,000 for giving a talk. And this was all at the same time they were building a uranium plant for Putin and building his tech city so that he could become as advanced as we are in technology, especially in war.
Because, for those who might need to catch up, because then you have an opponent who also needs to buy war equipment, and then your side needs to buy war equipment, and that keeps the military-industrial complex all greased up, revenue flowing, and the banksters are happy.
Absolutely. Now, another thing they were covering, another thing that they didn't look at was Hillary's Federal Election Commission fraud during the election. Okay, no one could have meddled with the election more than Hillary did with her primaries. She stole 17 primaries from Bernie, locked him out of his own computer system, his own funding system, took illegal funds from George Soros, $4 billion, made sure that Brian Pagliano and Justin Cooper, the people who set up her server as a pay-to-play, never really had to testify, and allowed Imran Awan to come in to have complete access to her, John Podesta's, the DCCC, and the DNC server. Okay? We know this for a fact. And so Imran Awan, Brian Pagliano, and Justin Cooper are the people who really hacked. They hacked it up to begin with to make that server an illegal server handling illegal content. And then, of course, it was Seth Rich and others who released it in a breach, not in a hack. The Russians never hacked. The IRA, the Internet Research Agency of Putin that Mueller supposedly indicted, complete nonsense, of course. That company didn't even exist at the moment that the election was going on. We'll go to that in a minute. But when we're talking about that kind of... you want to talk about some meddling in the election? Talk about Imran Awan, Brian Pagliano, Justin Cooper. Those were the people who stole those and gave them out to everyone. The reason WikiLeaks will not tell us that it came from Seth Rich is because it was given to anyone who wanted to pay for it. What do people not understand about this? Imran Awan was being paid from all different sides for the fact that he had a server that collected everything from 80 different computers and Blackberries, and it was 80 people in the Congress. It was all of Pelosi's people, the DCCC. All of them were forced to go on under Imran's control. And then what did Imran do? He ran it through Becerra's office, ran it to another off-site server that his cousin was running in the basement, and then they sold it to the Pakistanis, the Israelis, the Russians, the Chinese, and everyone else. I thought everyone knew this. No, maybe not. Okay, so let's remember that the Gang of Eight knew everything about this. That's the reason Devin Nunes stepped up and literally put his neck on the chopping block and literally got kicked off by the Ethics Committee of the House Intelligence Committee for a while, but then got put back on. Because the Gang of Eight, in other words, the heads of basically party leadership in the Senate and the House, let's put it that way, and of the intelligence committees, they were informed again and again of all of this. They knew all of it.
Yeah, they're part of the whole problem.
Dianne Feinstein, Richard Burr.
Dianne Feinstein.
100%, 100, and Adam Schiff knew the truth, was told the truth, and ignored it. It was only Devin Nunes. Without Devin Nunes, none of this would come to pass. Then we have to say,
Wait a minute, I just want to say, don't forget that Dianne Feinstein's husband is Richard C. Bloom, and he owns part of, I don't know how much of the stake he has, of Avid ISIS management. So that connects the whole election rigging thing right back to the Feinsteins.
Absolutely. And then you have Feinstein's good buddy, John McCain, who went onto her intelligence committee and through David Kramer and Henry Kerner passed out the dossier and made sure everybody knew all about it, made sure everyone had it, made sure all the agencies that were in on the deal, that were being paid by Fusion GPS, all the news agencies were paid, but it was all John McCain. John McCain had met with Oleg Deripaska. John McCain had already met with Bruce Steele and Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele and Oleg Deripaska. Oleg Deripaska, the Russian oligarch who gave money to Bruce Steele to keep up the opposition dossier against Trump, being also McCain paid for by the DNC, Hillary, Podesta, and Fusion GPS, and Perkins Coie.
He's a career traitor because he's got a long path of being a traitor. This isn't his first rodeo.
That's right. They forgot to look into Eric Schmidt's U.S. Digital Service, which was the spy tool used during the 2016 election. They forgot to look into the fact that when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and we pointed all this out, we've given all the documents, that there was a template to win the election that was created by a Russian. In India, by the way, Dmitry Shevelenko, he was a Russian. So they forgot to look into that, and that Facebook was, in fact, they now know, that they said even in the 2018 midterm elections, that Facebook swayed tens of thousands of votes, especially in swing states. So therefore we have right here, the template to win the election is still being used by Facebook. The algorithms to put Trump down and to put the Democrats up are still being used by Eric Schmidt and his U.S. Digital Service. It moved to the bunker, and now it's Valerie Jarrett has control of that, we believe. And then there were, of course, the 12 prostitutes who were paid by Fusion GPS from the 8 news agencies with their 533,000 articles with 93% negative reporting, which was Avid and ISIS management, as you just pointed out. Why wasn't that looked into? Everyone in America witnesses that. Everyone has seen those little clips where they show all the news agencies using the same phrase at the same time, and it's all a lie. Okay? And then let's look to the real Russian. The only person who looked at the Democratic National Committee server, that was Dmitry Alperovitch. No one else ever looked at it. Mueller's team never looked at it. FBI never looked at it. The Dutch government that told them they had already been penetrated and breached with net bots, that's because Dmitry Alperovitch put them in. As I told you, the only person to date that I know, told you that in 2015 in April, he went to the DNC and put those in there. And then he was called in December of 2016 to finish up what the Atlantic Council and Alexandra Chalupa had set up in terms of the Russian cloud of smoke that was to try to hide Hillary's guilt and her involvement with Putin, because it was seen as the number one thing that was going to take her down. So CrowdStrike, the only company who ever looked at it, the only person who ever looked at it, was a Russian who had already been arrested by the FBI and made a Russian asset, and they opened up this fake company called CrowdStrike, which was used by Obama for just about everything, and never once was it effective. Matter of fact, anything Dmitry Alperovitch has ever touched has turned to total garbage. And so he was the only person who ever looked at it, and he admitted that he made up most of his story, and that he made up the whole part about Putin because he hates Putin, because he and his dad, Michael Alperovitch, another criminal, Russian, who defected from Russia and brought his son here, and then his son became a criminal cyber warfare expert, arrested, and then made into an FBI asset.
And the thing is everything we're telling you, we've told you over the last few years, we've shown you the evidence, and these things are not going to go away because this is what truth is. What's going to happen, though, as we add more and more layers to uncovering it, you're just going to see a more brilliant picture of truth.
Mueller forgot to mention that he delivered yellow cake uranium, enriched uranium, which is illegal, that was supposedly captured in Crimea, but Crimea didn't want to give it to Russia or anybody else over there. Somehow they gave it to us. They don't tell us how they got it to Mueller. And then Mueller supposedly took it back to Putin. Does any of that make any sense? That's a lie. No, he took yellow cake uranium from Wyoming, where the Uranium One deal was going to get that uranium, took it to Oak Ridge, had it enriched. Putin didn't believe it was good enough. Mueller had to deliver it. Mueller was in charge of the Uranium One giant ripoff, scandal, fraud, which went on for 10 years. Andrew McCabe was his front man. We know this. We have all the evidence. We have someone who is a whistleblower. We have the evidence from the case because...
Okay, so we have all this evidence. How come we do not see any prosecutions? And I'll tell you why. Because sitting over there at the DOJ, all their top attorneys, 500 of them, they're senior executive service. They're not going to get anything done. So what we have to do is hold their feet to the fire. We have to hold William Barr's feet to the fire. Because if these Department of Justice attorneys cannot make zillions of cases out of what your stay-at-home retired teachers can do, then we need to fire them all. All the SES need to go and bring in a whole new bunch.
Absolutely.
I'm just telling you, I'm just sick and tired of the waiting. When you have this much evidence, Mueller is so corrupt. We have a trail on him since 9/11. Oh, I'm sorry.
William Douglas Campbell was given a gag order by Mueller, but he has broken it as a whistleblower, and he's the one who turned in the Russian who ran Tenex, which was the Russian American company that was connected to Tenam, which was connected to Rosatom, which was connected to Kazakhstan Uranium, which is connected to Putin, of course. And so we know for a fact all of this is in the record. Mueller covered up his own 10 years of crime. He also made sure that his crimes of 9/11 didn't come forward, or all the other many other cases. Many cases he threw, and I don't even get me started. I can list too many things to list here. But Mueller's criminality, look that up. We've done articles on it. How about Hillary Clinton saying, Hillary Clinton's conspiracy that she said 7 times and then said, 50 other times before the debates, and then after the debates she probably said it 50 times, that there are 17 intelligence agencies, U.S. intelligence agencies, who all agree that Russians hacked the DNC and they did it to support Trump against Hillary. No. There are 2 agencies that agree. It finally came down because of the statement that she made. And first off, how did she find that out when she was only a candidate? She even never had the clearance to be able to receive that information, or her husband. And if she took it from her husband, well, that's a crime too.
Her crimes of what she did with these classified materials are so egregious at so many levels, and in so many ways this woman has committed treason that she must be executed. No, there's no, don't be soft on this.
No,
these
I
people
think so.
were going
I think so.
destroy our country and with it the world. This is treason.
Clapper came out and said he didn't agree with the FBI and he didn't agree with the NSA, Rogers, and he didn't agree with it. It came down to 4 agencies, and the 4 said none of them agreed. That's the reason there was the joint investigation. Then there was his investigation, Clapper's investigation. Then there was a secret investigation. Then there was the House investigation. Then there was the Senate investigation. And then there was the investigation that Andrew McCabe says he started. Then there was the investigation, the counterintelligence started by Brennan. So when you're talking about this was all lies. The 17 agencies all need to be closed down. First off, we don't need half of them. If they are corporate and they are not military, we don't need them. We need people who've made vows that will be hung for treason if they do this next time. Okay? Not corporations that say they get away with it and there's no problem. Those people don't even go to jail many times, the ones who turn in this information. So the 17 intelligence agencies lie. And those who then said that lie and they never substantiated it, and then later when they found out the truth and they didn't go back and retract it, they're part of the conspiracy too.
Well, you know
that's who should have been investigated. Yes. Bless the Brits. Now,
the Brits. I know. I keep going with the Brits. Gina Haspel was sitting over there in the London office. Has she done a full report to the president that she works for from the CIA that the Brits were in on this?
We don't know.
Probably not. I don't know.
So MI6 Sir Richard Dearlove was represented in America and was as the controller of John Brennan, because we know Dearlove was totally involved. We know that the GCHQ, Robert Hannigan at the time, basically the British NSA, was basically working directly with Clapper because he came into the NSA headquarters at Fort Meade without anybody's permission. The only way, without Rogers' permission, Admiral Rogers' permission, could have only happened if Clapper gave him permission. So Clapper had to be the person controlling Robert Hannigan and the wiretapping of Trump Towers. Then you got Christopher Steele, and his person he was working with here in America was Bruce and Nellie Orr, right? We know that. We got all the evidence.
Nellie Orr.
Then we got the Strategic Communications Laboratory, which is basically Lord Malloch-Brown and Jeffrey Patty and many others. They were controlling the Global Engagement Center, the Department of Defense Board of Broadcasting Governors. We know that. They had an $86 million contract. Then you got Obama. Who was his equivalent during all of this? That's the Queen. Make absolutely no mistake about it. The people that I'm naming here, some of them are Privy Council members. The Queen would never allow these things to happen unless she was informed of it. She has to give the nod. If she doesn't give the nod, it doesn't happen. And Obama had to give the nod. And anybody who thinks otherwise is stupid. And they're now calling for Obama's criminality to come forth. This is treason. These were crimes. Same thing with the Queen. And we say the Queen and the Privy Council need to be held. Now, one of her favorite people she was using underneath her main man, Sir Richard Dearlove, the head of the MI6 International CIA counterintelligence, of course, was Stephen Halper, a Brit and an American who was paid $1.4 million. And who was he like? He was handling, connecting everybody up over there for the Privy Council. Who was that in America? We've told you this. And unless you go and you read backwards what's in the Wikipedia timeline for the Russian collusion, you will not know that Felix Sater is the Russian spy. He was the one coordinating all of the 28 crimes of Comey. Treasonous crimes of Comey. Felix Sater is the linchpin. And I don't know if he's going to testify. They said he was going to, and now it just kind of disappeared, his testimony. I haven't heard what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to happen. So we just revealed that in the Orr, the dinner with the Orrs? The dinner with Orrs.
With Allison Saunders.
And her equivalent is Sally Yates at the time, and Loretta Lynch just before that. Loretta Lynch and Sally Yates had to have been coordinating with Allison Saunders. No other way possible that these things could have happened on such a high level. No other way possible.
And then all these people on our side that you've named are senior executive service.
Of course.
Because they work for the Queen.
And on the Mueller council was attached a person named Arvinder Sambai, who is the FBI contact for the United Kingdom, directly a Crown attorney, a high prosecutor for the Queen, literally. Arvinder Sambai was the controller of James Comey. Just that James Comey couldn't be controlled. He was too stupid. Then you have Eric Schmidt. Well, Eric Schmidt and his $1.5 billion donation to basically sway the 2016 presidential election, that's what Jeffrey Patty taught him. Jeffrey Patty is the master at this. He's done it in 107 elections in dozens of countries all over the world, and he basically just told Eric Schmidt how to do it. And, of course, Jeffrey Patty's connected to all the theft of high technology through patent theft and so on and so forth. And then you have Facebook, who now has hired an ex-Deputy Prime Minister, Clegg, Nick Clegg and Lord Allen to work at Facebook.
Richard Allen, yes.
It can't get any thicker than that. And all throughout social media, you have these Brits. Well, who is that over here? That's Lord Malloch-Brown over there. Lord Malloch-Brown was in on the whole thing from the beginning. Lord Malloch-Brown controls election machines. He helped Jimmy Carter develop the software that still steals elections to this very day. So when you're talking about Facebook manipulating elections, that the equivalent in Britain would have been Lord Malloch-Brown. He sent Clegg and Allen over here. Now, I just want to say,
don't rush. We're
Bill
loving it.
And Hillary's equivalent, Soros. They are Soros wannabes. They are rogue CIA who want to be able to control who's ever in power all over the world. Now, the other thing is that Robert Mueller charged a company, IRA, the Internet Research Agency, which was supposedly a Putin troll factory. It had already been dead for 2 years before the election. Lie. And then they attributed, now they're saying thousands, it's only a few hundred, supposedly net bots and sites that went out and stirred things up. Okay, all of that happened. 60% of it happened after the election, and only less than 1/3 of it was focused on Trump, and half of what was focused on Trump was good and half was bad. Couldn't possibly have affected the elections. Lies. And all the evidence they're going to present, which they will not present, by the way, Mueller will not want to give out that evidence. It would just show what an idiot he is, because he stole the stuff about IRA from a New York Times article from 4 years before he brought these charges against 12 Russians who did work there then. But what they said is they did this everywhere. They were proud that they created dissent everywhere. Had nothing to do with Trump and wasn't focused on the presidential election, and they weren't doing it in 2016. And the other two, that was one company that's dead, another company, Concord Management Company, dead. Concord Catering still alive because they're still making food, but they came over and fought this, and they're doing a really good job making idiots of fake justice over here and making idiots of Mueller. That's the reason I believe they closed Mueller down now, is because in court, again and again, with Christopher Steele and all this stuff coming forward, as well as with Concord Catering, as well as with Alexei Gubarev and the Alpha Bank owner, the Russian Alpha Bank owners, they're all winning their cases in court. Their depositions gave us half of what we know. So, Bill and Hillary Soros wannabes, the IRA, that is nothing. Okay? So those 12 Russians, some of them have already come out and said, no, 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 and they live in other countries. Then you have 13 GRU and FSB Russian spies who they actually know exactly the name of these people who opened these supposed accounts that then went out and said bad things about Jill Stein. All lies. And if you'd watch the way that Facebook released that information, you'll find out that Zuckerberg didn't know anything about this. And so he lied and he lied and he was stupid and he said really contrary things. And then he just gave them all 1 million pages of every Russian ad and they claimed that that's what they did. But they were all in Russian. Okay? Stupid. All right, now the other group we need to make sure you understand is Fusion GPS, which works with Perkins Coie. But when you say Perkins Coie, you're talking about one of the most horrible lawyer firms. Now, there's many bad lawyer firms, Wilmer Hale and many others, but they're right up there with the worst. And so I would say that the equivalent that would be they are one of what in Britain is called the Magical Eight. And they only control the legal needs of very rich and powerful groups, okay, politically and monetary-wise. So Perkins Coie, Fusion GPS, Opposition Research, but at the same time, they also worked with the Podesta brothers. Well, on the other side was Black, Manafort, Stone, and Kelly. And we know they went after Stone and got him, went after Manafort, got him, went after Manafort's guy, Rick Gates. Oh, Rick Gates, let's remember. Rick Gates was McCain's. Rick Gates, the guy they indicted, was McCain's manager of his presidential campaign. Rick Gates, okay? The guy who lied and put his buddy Manafort in jail. And lied and lied and lied to keep himself out and is still lying to this very minute. We're still told that he is still cooperating on other things to lie more. So he's going to be like a permanent Comey liar like a Felix Sater. And now I'm going to name for you the real Russians. And each one of these Russians, 25, because Mueller named his 25, I'm naming my 25. Each one of these I can personally prosecute with the information I have to show their crimes.
Well,
okay?
Good. We need to save some money in the government, so we'll send you up there to do this.
These are the real Russians in collusion with Hillary Clinton, Obama, and the weaponized White House that was fighting for the Democrats. Some of them, I could stop and tell you who they are, but I'm going to finish this up and I'm just going to name them. You probably heard me talk about all these before. Some of them you might not, but if you think back, you will. Okay? Felix Sater. Maybe I should say at least a little bit. Felix Sater, oh my, Russia's favorite. That's Comey's favorite. He was in on everything. He was manipulating Cohen. He was manipulating everybody. He was making up so many lies for the press that probably half of the lies out there came from him. And nobody even knows it. No one even mentioned his name until recently. Sergei Milian. Oh, he went and started the whole thing with Papadopoulos all over when Stefan Halper couldn't make it work. Sergei Milian Parachenko. He's now acting like he's just a normal person. Stefan Rowe, that's the person who owns Link
Ladder.
No, that's a different group. That's the Magical Eight. Link Campus University in Rome.
Oh, yes.
Which is connected to the University
Well,
of
I keep wondering
Malta.
if that's related, Link Ladder and Link University.
I wouldn't doubt it at all.
I get confused.
I immediately thought the same thought.
So my brain may be wanting to do that.
Yep.
Okay, keep going.
Stefan Rowe is the money behind Joseph Mifsud and the whole thing. He put up the money so that he could get into this intelligence group because he's running one of them. He now owns one of them. And then there's the real Russian. The only real Russian in all of this was Ivan Timofeyev, and he was a friend of Stefan Rowe. And he was the person Joseph Mifsud was going to hook up George Papadopoulos with. What a joke. Then there's Victor Vekselberg, and if you don't know him, he's one of Hillary's favorites. That's the person who always comes up with money for Hillary anytime she needs it, and all the Russian deals, he's always there. He's standing right there. Then you have Simon Kukes. Now, Kukes is on both sides, and he was sent after the Trump team, and that's the reason he made a $900,000 donation to the inaugural. Why? He was paid to make that. Okay? It was another setup to say Russians were involved in the inaugural. But of course, they had attempted to assassinate Trump before that. So they were hoping they wouldn't have to pay, for the inaugural. But anyway, they got some Russians to do it, right? Actually, he's a Ukrainian, and there's nothing illegal about that. Sorry, 900,000 is from Ukrainian. Oleg Deripaska, who Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele tried to turn into a Russian asset, an FBI Russian asset. He's a huge Russian oligarch, aluminum oligarch, huge sanctions on him now. They tried to turn him into being an asset a long time ago, back in 2004. Okay, and he gave money to Christopher Steele, and he gave $10 million to Daniel Jones to continue the opposition research against Trump. Then there's Natalia Veselnitskaya, one of my favorite Trump Tower group. She brought in, let's see who I can name these. This will make it more sensible to you. Rinat Akhmetshin, another friend of Hillary's. And by the way, Veselnitskaya is a friend of Hillary's. And it was the State Department that allowed them to get the visas to come in. Oh, isn't that cute? And who did they bring with them? They brought with them the representative of Emin Agalarov, his son, Aras Agalarov. Now, these people, Aras is a famous singer, but Emin is a gigantic oligarch. He couldn't come, so he sent his son. Rob Goldstein is, of course, another FBI agent who set up that meeting with the help of Felix Sater. And so they were there at the Trump Tower meeting along with Renat and Natalia. And I think that's the only... No, there was one of them, and that was, yes, my favorite. Anatoly Samokolnovov. Oh, yes, an easy name to say. She was there posing as a translator, though everyone there spoke perfect English. She's a Russian spy. Also allowed to come in by the State Department. Right. A known Russian spy. And then we have Dmitry Alperovitch, who is such a criminal, and his dad, Michael Alperovitch, who basically set up a lot of the crypto codes for everybody in America. So he's a Russian spy, a Russian defector, brought his son here. His son got arrested by the FBI, became a cyber warrior asset for the FBI and CIA and all the other ones. And Michael Alperovitch sat there one after the next and was trusted to create the crypto codes for everybody. If you want to know how they break into things, two things: Hillary's crypto codes through Entrust, and Michael Alperovitch, who then writes a second set of them. And then you have the guy who wrote the template for winning the election, paid for by our GAS, good old tax dollars by Hillary Clinton, and that'd be Dmitry Shevelenko, who was a Russian who created that plan, used in 2 elections, and it was paid for by us, and he was a Russian. You have like Alexandra Chalupa, the person who said, I'll put Manafort in jail, don't worry, I'm going to go create all the propaganda you need. She did, she tried, she lost. She's also in the Atlantic Council, good friends of Dmitry Alperovitch, and she was thick as a brick. Her and her sister and her cousin were absolutely there as cheerleaders all along. They're the ones who first let us in on the fact that the Atlantic Council was behind the whole thing for the Russian cover-up. The second they knew they needed a Russian cover-up for Hillary, they turned to the Atlantic Council. Alexander Chalupa was on it because the Atlantic Council is nothing more than a machine to wipe out Russia, saying Russia's our enemy, and that keeps everything flowing. Now,
this would have been a lot cheaper if we had had you work with Mueller to deliver these Russian spies. Any more?
Oh my gosh, yes, there's 25 I got a list. These are real ones.
Oh my.
Maria Butina, she's now in jail. I won't even go into that. They tried to set her up with NRA 1,000 times with Torsion and Trump and everybody. Oh, nonsense. And then Felix Sater brought in his good old friend, Ike Kavaldaz, when he was going against Cohen, trying to tell everybody he wrote a letter for sanctions that would get basically lift the sanctions, Russian sanctions, and let the basically go put sanctions. The sanctions were put on by Obama. This letter said lift the sanctions. Okay, well, Trump didn't lift the sanctions. He still hasn't. He put more sanctions on. But if they could have shown that Trump was going to lift the sanctions before the election, then he was doing a deal with Russia, right? Well, it didn't work out very well now, did it there, Mr. Felix Sater and Mr. Michael Cohen? It looks like Cohen's going to jail, and hopefully Sater will too. But who were they representing? Andrei Artemenko, another good friend of the Clintons. And he was the money behind it, feeding Felix Sater, I guess, when Comey ran out of money paying for the dossier, because he paid $50,000 for 17 installments. Well, he paid 16 installments. Didn't pay for the last one. Lied to everybody and said, "Oh, I didn't pay that $50,000 for the December installment." No, but you paid for all of them from March until December. Well, it was Andrei Artemenko who was right there with the sanctions letters, because he is, of course, a Russian Ukrainian. Now, when you say you're Russian, Ukrainian, Russian, they're Russian. Okay, I don't know why people get mixed up. Now, the only one that they tried to float as a real Russian who isn't, who may be dead, who was supported by Stephen Rowe, and that's Joseph Mifsud, who they tried to play like, through the Valdi discussion group, a friend of Putin's, so that George Papadopoulos was told so many times by Ivan Timorev and by Joseph Mifsud and by Stephen Halper and by all of them that he was going to connect with Putin, that he kept making reports to everyone in the Trump team who didn't even know who he was. I can connect Trump to Putin. And they're all going, "You're an idiot. That would be illegal. That's called a back channel. You're stupid. Go away." They had to literally put a restraining order on Carter Page. And remember, who recommended George Papadopoulos? Carter Page recommended Papadopoulos to the Trump team because he's an idiot, and Carter Page was being used as an idiot. The person mentioned in the Russian dossier again and again, $11 billion he was going to get for connecting Putin and Trump. Woo! Man, I wish I had a deal. Anyway, Carter Page hasn't sued anybody. And if it's true that the FISA court warrant and the national security letters, well, it is true. What's in them says Carter Page is 150% a Russian spy, sworn with an oath by Comey. People don't know that. Comey had to swear an oath that Carter Page was a Russian spy when he was, in fact, we already proved that again and again. We recently proved it again, gave out all the information. Carter Page was a stooge being used by Comey against the Russians. They put one of them in jail, two of them had to be sent back. Carter Page didn't even know he was being used. He's such an idiot. So he was used again, sent into the Trump campaign. But he wasn't a Russian. He wanted to be a Russian. He liked to go to Russia. So did George Papadopoulos. But they're not Russian. Now, two other people, I just want to say, George Papadopoulos, sorry, but Olga Polinskaya was not Putin's niece. That was a secretary of Stephen Halper. She's Russian, though. So I hope you had a good time there. And then you have Eugene Kaspersky. Now, I'm not even going to go into that. That's the Kaspersky Russian group that just got kicked out of every single military device, period, because they're all spy devices. Yeah. Well, the money behind that is Igor Ivanov, and they are directly connected, always. To who? The Clintons. And then let's just talk about two others. Bill Browder, who people will tell you is American. He's not. He went to Russia. He stole more money than any American or any foreigner ever stole from Russia. And in a Hermitage Limited. And then he became a British citizen so he wouldn't have to pay American taxes on it. Well, he's hated in the whole Magnitsky Act and the whole fight with Oleg Deripaska and the whole thing. That's Bill Browder. Really, I count him as Russian. And I also count Leo Blavatnik as Russian because he may be an American, but so what? He's a Russian. He still currently sits on Gazprom board, okay? I think it's Gazprom. Anyway, he sits on the largest gas board in Russia, and yet he donates to American elections all the time to Democrats. So those are the 25 Russians that somehow Mueller didn't notice. I guess Steele didn't get it from his CNN report, and Mueller couldn't get it from his New York Times report on a dead company called IRA. And he couldn't get it from Zuckerberg, and he couldn't get it from Schmidt, because Schmidt was over creating Dragonfly at the time that Mueller was doing all this. And now Dragonfly is coming to America. So the U.S. digital service of Schmidt is now going to be turned into one that controls everything. So you'll have a credit score. You'll have a social credit score.
No,
determined.
Don't say that. Don't will that into the world.
That's their intent.
Well, that's their intent.
That was the conspiracy.
All this 5G stuff, it's got to stop as well. I mean, that's another audio. We'll do another audio. Folks, now we're going to wrap it up today. I'm sorry if the audio went a little too long for some of you, and to others, I'm sorry that it's so short. Thomas, I'll give you 1 minute for any closing remarks, please.
I doubt Mueller will say anything because he only conducted a cover-up. He doesn't want to answer any questions about anything, okay? Schiff is a liar. Nunes has seen everything Schiff has seen, so there is no collusion. There's no evidence of collusion. Jerry Nadler, of course, Schiff on the House Intelligence Committee, Jerry Nadler on the House Judiciary Committee said just last week that all he has is a feeling. But now, after the Mueller report, he's 100% sure, and he's got all kinds of evidence. So there are 8 streams they're going to keep going down. All of them will lead nowhere, because we've already spent $250 million investigating Trump. And as Betsy says, Donald J. Trump is the most vetted person
on the face of the earth.